All right, hello everybody. This is Melissa, the insurance exam queen, and I wanted to talk about parts of a policy. So this is usually part of the section of the exam that is under either P&C Basics if you are taking a Prometric exam, or it will be part of Policy Provisions and Contract Law if you're taking a Pearson exam. And if you don't know if you're taking Prometric or Pearson, it's who are you scheduling your test with? Whichever, if you were to Google your state exam, so let's say you're in New York, you do New York insurance exam schedule, it's going to either pop up as a Pearson website or a Prometric website, or technically PSI, but PSI will also follow either Pearson or Prometric. So you just have to, if it says PSI, then you got to look at the chapter titles. But most state exams are Prometric or Pearson anyway. So anyway, this is, regardless of all of that, this is a big part of the policy. So, or a big part of the exam for most people. So if you're taking the property and casualty exam, or hello, I see somebody's watching. Hello, I see your picture, but I don't see your name. Please feel free to drop a comment if you have any questions as I'm talking about all of this. It's a beautiful day. I got my coffee here. I got my little puppy on my lap. Okay, so this is a pretty big section on the exam for a lot of people. It comes out of it, very generally speaking, a highly tested chapter. Even when I analyze score sheets, whether I'm looking at a Pearson breakdown or a Prometric, it almost always comes down to P&C Basics or Policy Provisions and Contract Law as being one of the chapters that people need to go back and study. So this is why I wanted to talk about this concepts through this video. Hello, I see someone else is watching. Hello, welcome. Please feel free to drop questions in the comments. So this is a big part. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about this and that, we can have a good understanding of this. So when you get a policy from an insurance company, this policy is a typed up document and they're basically just putting your name on it. So like what I mean by that is like the policy is made up. So like, okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's say you have a house and you need to insure your house. So you call the insurance company and you say, I have a home, I want to insure my home. Now they're going to ask you a ton of information about your house. What kind of flooring do you have? What kind of countertops do you have? What kind of roof do you have? What kind of siding do you have? How many bedrooms do you have? How many bathrooms do you have? Perhaps even what kind of finishes. Are you have chrome finishes, brass finishes on your doorknobs? Like they could ask a lot of things. The reason they're asking all of these things is because they're trying to determine the value of your home. So how much is my home worth? And not even just necessarily worth, but if the insurance company's job is to rebuild this home, if the home burns down, they need to know how much money they're going to need to do that. So they ask all these questions about the house, the flooring, the carpet, the roof, the siding, the countertops. They ask all these questions so that they can determine the money they would need to rebuild this house if this house burned down. Based on that, the features of your home, they will spit out a value like $250,000 is how much we would need to rebuild the house. And that becomes coverage A. And all the coverages are based off of coverage A. Pretty much it's the main coverage of the policy. Now, they will take those coverages amounts that they've determined and they will put them on the declaration page. And so we're talking about all the parts of a policy. So you're a homeowner, you call the insurance company, you say, I need a homeowner's policy. I tell them all the features about my home and they say, okay, based on everything that you just said us, we determine the value of your home. In order for us to rebuild it, we're going to need $250,000. We're going to set the policy coverage at $250,000. They put that on the declaration page and then all the coverages are pretty much based off of that. And then that is what is on the deck page. Now the deck page is like a summary page of the policy. And it's very unique to you because it will have your name, your address, your premium, your policy period, how long your policy is good for. That's everything that's on the declaration page. So it'll have all of your information on it, and then your coverage amounts, how much money you need for your house, coverage A, your walls and your roof, how much money you need for the buildings in the backyard, which is generally set at 10% of whatever coverage A is at. The money you need to repair or replace all your stuff, your clothes, your shoes, your furniture, that's coverage C. They'll put that on the deck page. So everything is listed on the declaration page. You can even abbreviate that as NAP, name of the insured, name of the insurer, NAP, NAAPP, by the way, NAP. When you take a boring insurance class, I really want a NAP. So the declaration, I declare I need a NAP. the name of the insurer, the name of the insured, the amount of coverage, the address of where the coverage is being provided, the premium, and the policy period, how long the policy is good for. So that's everything that's on the declaration page. That's probably the most unique part of the policy, because it's all about you and the value of your house and the coverages you have. Then when you flip the page over, you have the insuring agreement. And the insuring agreement is like the essence of the policy. It's what says, we will cover you if this happens, we will pay out. If the house burns down, we will rebuild it. If you crash your car, we will fix it. If your dog bites someone, we'll pay the bill. That's what's in the promise to pay. And obviously I had an auto example in there as a homeowner's. Your homeowner's does not cover your car. I was talking about a homeowner's example, threw in an auto example, so just wanted to clarify that. But that's what the promise to pay is, which is included in an auto policy. I am using a homeowner's example, but this is what's cool about a property casualty policy. They all pretty much look the same. So whether you're taking the P&C exam, the property, or the casualty exam separate, the policy structure is the same for all property and casualty policies, which is awesome. So anyway, you have your declaration page and the insuring agreement, and the insuring agreement contains the promise to pay. And now the insuring agreement is like already typed up. It's already written. And because if the insurance company doesn't change how they cover every new person, they cover every person the same for that policy. So they may have, like they have an HO2, an HO3, an HO5, but whatever is typed up in an HO2, anyone who gets an HO2 is going to get exactly the same policy coverages, like the written policy. Now, people, of course, can add or remove coverages. I'm not saying everybody gets the same coverages, but everyone gets the same wording. Everyone gets the same policy typed up, which goes into adhesion. And adhesion is an idea that says that whatever the insurer wrote, they have to stick to what they wrote. So if the insurer says, we will cover you if this happens, then they need to cover you if that happens. They have to stick to what they said. Adhere, glue, sticky. They have to stick to what they said. They write that contract, they have to stick to what it says, and they don't want to have all these different rules for all these different people. So the contract, that the basic policy structure that says we will cover you if this happens, is pretty much the same for everybody. And then of course you can add or remove certain coverages. But even if I were to add water sewer backup to my policy and you add water sewer backup to your policy, what is written as part of that coverage will be the same that's written for me is the same that's written for you. It's not unique. The only thing that's unique when you buy a homeowner's policy is your address, your coverage amounts, and your name and your premium. Everything else about the policy, if you bought an HO3, it's going to look like someone else's HO3. And yes, you may have different endorsements than each other, but all the main wording is going to be the same. So that's the insuring agreement. And the insuring agreement contains the promise to pay. It does also list the parties. So at the beginning of the insuring agreement, say this insurance company is promising to pay this person if these perils were to happen. And so it's kind of like a fill in a blank. Like this insurance company will cover blank line, and then they put your name on it. And then the rest of the insuring agreement, they just refer to you as the insured, so that they don't have to put your name throughout the rest of the contract, because it's already typed up, it's already written. It's kind of like set in stone. So they will put your name on there and they will put your coverage amounts in there, but everything that's typed up in it stays the same. So you have the insuring agreement, which says this insurance company will cover this person for these perils. That's the promise. So the biggest thing about the insuring agreement is that it contains the promise to pay. That's the promise that the insurance company will pay you if something happens. And then it also has the parties, the period, how long is this policy good for, and it has the promise to pay, which is the biggest part. So the insuring agreement has all the P's, the promise, the perils, the parties, and the premium. No, not the premium. Policy, period. That's a big thing, that it has all the P's but the premium, which is funny about the insuring agreement. So all the P's but the premium. So that's a big part of the policy. So again, recapping, we're talking about the parts of a policy. When you buy a policy, they ask you a bunch of questions about the house, about the car, whatever. They put that information on the declaration page. Then the next page, you have your insuring agreement, which says we promise to pay you if any of these things were to happen. And it contains that promise to pay. That's the biggest part about the insuring agreement, contains a promise to pay. Then the next part of the policy, you're going to have, I don't know what order it goes in, and it really doesn't matter, but you're going to have conditions. Conditions are the rules on the policy. You ever hear the phrase, I want unconditional love? What does unconditional love mean? It means that you love me no matter what, that no matter what happens or what I do or what you do, that you will love me. That's without condition. Well, conditions mean that there are conditions, there are rules, that this is not an unconditional loving relationship. This is, you must do this and I must do that. And if you don't do this and I don't do that, then this policy is over. That's what conditions mean. So the conditions has rules to it. Rules about, for instance, how quickly must an insured file a claim. Their policy is going to say you need to notify us of a claim within 30 days of the date of loss, or whatever the date of loss may be. Or whatever the rules are. Every state could be a little bit different. I'm not saying every state says you have to notify them of a claim within 30 days. It could be different from state to state. But anyway, that's what the conditions will say, is that you have this many days to submit a claim. Then the other part of the conditions will say, and we have this many days to pay you. So the conditions are the rules. You do this and we do that, and as long as you do this and we do that, this policy is good. But if you don't do this and we don't do that, then this policy is over, it's terminated. So that's the conditions. It's the rules, it's the duties, it's the obligations, it's the ways of behaving. What is the insurance company obligated to do? They're obligated to pay you for a valid claim. They're obligated to investigate. They're obligated to communicate with you. You are obligated to pay your premium if you want to continue having this coverage. You are obligated to communicate with them, to provide them with the ability to investigate the thing. That's what the conditions are saying. So the conditions are setting up the rules, the parameters, the ways in which the insurance company and the insured work together through this policy. That's the conditions. You must follow these rules. I will follow these rules, and the policy is good. But if we don't follow these rules, policy is over. That's conditions. And the key words on that, these are the key words. I would encourage you to write this down if you're studying for the PNC exam. Conditions are the rules. Conditions are the duties. Conditions are the obligations, and conditions are the ways of behaving. When you get a question that asks about the rules, the duties, obligations, or ways of behaving, you should be choosing conditions as your answer. Then you have another part of the policy called exclusions. These are the things that are not covered. So what is not covered in the policy is the exclusions. Now, we haven't talked about this in this video, but your policy is either going to be a named peril policy or an open peril policy. And perils are the things that happen. So when we say that the insuring agreement lists the perils, what it's listing out is the things that you're covered for. Are you covered for fire? Are you covered for wind? Are you covered for hail? Are you covered for riot? Are you covered for volcano? That's the peril. The perils is the fire, the lightning, the wind, the hail. And your policy may or may not cover all the perils or certain perils. If you have a named peril policy, it will list the perils that you're covered for. So a named peril policy will say you are covered for fire, you are covered for lightning, you are covered for internal explosion. It will name the perils. A named peril policy names the perils. If it is an open peril policy, it doesn't name them. It simply says we cover you for every single peril unless it's excluded. And then it will list out what's excluded. So a named peril policy will list the perils that you're covered for. You are covered for fire, you are covered for lightning, you are covered for wind. A open peril policy will say you are covered for everything but is an open peril policy. So an open peril policy is better because it expands what it can cover you for. Where a named peril policy, you only get what's named. Open says you get anything that's open unless it's excluded. So an open peril policy will have way more exclusions than a named peril policy will, because if they're saying we will cover you for everything except what's excluded, they got to have a pretty good list of things that they're not going to cover. Because what if your dog decides to tear up the couch? Should the insurance company cover that? It's your own animal. No, they're not. They got to put that exclusion in there. So they'll say no damage from your own personal animals. No damage from your own children. Your children damage your house. That's not an insurance claim. That's a you taking care of your children claim. So they're going to put that, not a claim at all. Like, that's a you problem. There's no insurance coverage for that. So they're going to put those exclusions in there. So an HO3 and HO5, which are open peril policies, will have way more exclusions than a named peril policy will. But there are only 2 exclusions that you need to truly, truly remember for the exam. And it's for either named or open. And that is earth movement and water damage. So earth movement and water damage. Those are the 2 main exclusions that you want to have not covered on that are not covered on people's policies. Now, the next part of the policy, so we're talking about all the parts of the policy. You have the declaration page, which says the name of the company, the name of the insured, the address, the amount, the amount of coverage, the premium, the policy period. You have the insuring agreement, which says we will promise to pay if these perils happen. You have conditions, which is the rules and duties, the obligations, the ways of behaving. And we're talking about exclusions, which are things that are not covered. And then the next part is you have endorsements. And endorsements are ways of adding coverage. Well, not every endorsement adds coverage. So let me clarify that. So some endorsements are simply fixing the spelling of a name. So if they got my policy, like my name is Melissa, I got 1 L, but they spell my name with 2 L's, we got to fix it. Now they can't just, it's not as simple as like erasing. Like when the policy is written, like it is like in blood, like it is like permanent. And the only way to change anything is to make an endorsement. So an endorsement could be, we need to fix the spelling of her name, and they attach it to the back of the policy. They can't just go in and, of course, electronically they can. And when you log into your account, you're going to see your name spelled correctly. But the official policy paper that is typed up, they can't change that. They can only add an endorsement to the back. So they would add an endorsement that fixes the spelling of your name. But most endorsements require a premium increase. So we just talked about how the 2 main exclusions are earth movement and water damage. You can buy endorsements for these. So you can buy an endorsement to cover earth movement, and that would increase your premium. You got to pay extra money to increase the coverage to include earth movement on your policy. And then with water damage, you can't endorse flood. Flood is a whole separate policy that is from the government. You'd have to get it. You can get it with your insurer, but it's technically a government policy, but that's a whole other video. So flood would be a separate policy that you would need to get. But for water sewer backup, that's a water damage coverage that you could add to your policy. So your policy, every homeowner's policy as is, generally automatically excludes water sewer backup. If the sewer system backs up into your house, overflows over the toilet, and all your is everywhere, there's no coverage on your homeowners for that. You have to get the endorsement in order for that to be covered. And that's where I had a question last night. Someone says, I keep seeing the phrase unendorsed policy. What does that mean? It means that it doesn't have water sewer backup. It doesn't have earth movement. And if it's a DP1, it doesn't have wards. It only has fire, lightning, and internal explosion. So an unendorsed policy just means that it's a regular policy that has all the main exclusions and no extra coverage. That's all endorsed mean. Unendorsed means. So anyway, those are the two main endorsements that they talk about as well, is earth movement and water. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the main endorsements, but two of the big ones. The two main exclusions are earth movement and water damage. Both of those you can get an endorsement for. You can get the earthquake endorsement, earth movement endorsement, and then you can get the water sewer backup. With the water sewer, they love to ask about the water sewer backup, so that is a good endorsement to pay attention to. And I generally think they like to ask about the deductible for it. Maybe not. I don't know. Don't worry about that. My mind is going to weird. I'm like, wait a minute, hang on. I know like one state likes to ask about the deductible. I think it's like $250 or $500, but I think you get to pick your deductible. Okay, so those are all the main parts of the policy. You have your declaration page, which declares that this company is. That this is the company, this is the customer, these are all the coverages amounts, and this is a premium, this is a policy territory. You have your insuring agreement, which contains the promise to pay. This insurance company is covering this person. If all of these perils were to occur, here is how we will cover, here is how we will pay out. That's the insuring agreement. Then you have your conditions. Your conditions are the rules, the duties, the obligations, the ways of behaving. Those are all the conditions. You do this, we do that. As long as we do that, we're good. If you don't do that, the policy's over. You have your exclusions, the things that are not covered, earth movement and water damage being the two main things that are excluded. And then you have your endorsements, which are written addendums, printed changes to the contract. So the contract is typed up. The only way to change it is to add an endorsement, staple it to the back, and now you amend the original contract. And those are all the main parts of a policy. And this is, again, coming from a very highly tested chapter, which is why I wanted to come on and talk about this. So with that, are there any questions? So in the chat, ask questions, and I will be happy to answer them for you here since you're here watching. So you can ask me, I'm taking this exam, what do I need to focus on? You can say, please explain this definition to me, I don't understand it. Or any sort of question, if you need any guidance, like this is where I'm at, and I am not sure how to proceed. So this is an open opportunity to ask me a question. So feel free to do that. And then if I don't see any comments here, then I will be ending the video here shortly. You can ask me, I mean, whatever, anything. I'm open. There's this thing in education called wait time. I came from being a teacher. I sold insurance first, then I became a teacher, then I became a teacher teaching insurance. But I have a lot of experience in education, and there's this big thing that we talked about called wait time, which is if a teacher asks a question, you have to give adequate wait time for people to formulate their question. It was the worst thing. I was so bad at it. I was like, if you don't ask me a question, you don't say something in the next 2 minutes, I got to fill the silence. I got to fill the void. I can't wait that long. So I'm always working on my wait time, like giving people wait time so that they can formulate their answer, formulate their question in their head. So I'm working on my wait time. But if you don't have any other questions, that's cool. I don't see any comments. Sometimes, let me just comment real quick myself, because sometimes I don't see comments unless I comment. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm assuming nobody has any questions. But I'll give it just a few more minutes just in case you're typing it out. Right now, we're just open for questions. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be ending the video here shortly. We did all kinds of conversations about the insuring agreement, declaration page, conditions, exclusions, and endorsements. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Speak now, whoever holds your peace. Even if you have to type something like hang on or wait a minute in the comments so that I can hang on and answer your question if you might be typing it out. But yeah, let me know. Questions, if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're ending the video. We talked about so much amazing stuff. Okay. All right. If you do end up putting any questions later in the chat, of course, I'll be notified and I will come back and answer them. I really love going live, and I'm going to start doing this more consistently and then putting the videos on YouTube so that people can rewatch them. So if there's any other concepts or things that you want me to talk about, you can drop that in the comments as well. And then I'll start having these conversations going live more often in the group to talk about these things, and then putting those same videos on YouTube so you won't miss anything if you don't catch any of the lives. And of course, the video will always be here anyway. So, all right, with that, I love you all. Have a fantastic day. I'm sending you guys all the loves and all the vibes to pass your exam. And make sure you check out the YouTube channel with all the videos. My recorded classes, which are available for sale. If you don't know which ones to get, you can tell me what state you're in, what test you're taking, and I will tell you which of my recorded classes to get and what to focus on in your studies. And if you need any study buddy sessions, if you need help solidifying the knowledge that you have, you can book a study buddy session with Angela, who will drill down and make sure that you have the information in your brain ready to go into the exam. She also helps you with mindset and just feeling more confident heading into the exam. And yeah, all right, love you all. Have a fantastic day.